What questions are you asking? Stop the struggle and fight. Are you open to receive God's love? Come from darkness into light. There's a change that's in the air. The storm's almost gone. If your heart is dry and thirsty, let Spirit fill your soul. Pray for rain. When your heart is dry and thirsty, pray for rain. When your life is void and empty, pray for rain. When you don't know what to pray, pray for rain. Pray for peace. When your heart is sad and troubled, pray for peace. When you feel your strife is double, pray for peace. When you don't know what to pray, pray for peace. Pray for joy. When your heart is dry and heavy, pray for joy. When your life is void and empty, pray for joy. When you don't know what to pray, pray for joy. Pray for love. When your heart is sad and heavy, pray for love. When your life is void and empty, pray for love. When you don't know what to pray, pray for love. Oh, love. Pray for love. When your heart is dry and heavy, pray for love. When your life is void and empty, pray for love. When you don't know what to pray, pray for love. Pray for rain. When your heart is dry and thirsty, pray for rain. When your life is void and empty, pray for rain. When you don't know what to pray, pray for rain. Pray for peace. Pray for joy. Pray for love. When you don't know what to pray, pray. Heavenly Father, come beseeching thee with love day. We ask thee, Lord, we ask thee to shower that love and that thing on us, Lord. Lord, send to the rain. Send the rain, send the peace, send the joy, send the love, send the rain. Yeah. When you don't know what to
We are blessed indeed, aren't we? Thank you so much, Celebration. So I went to a lecture by Alan Cohen, a New Thought minister, not minister, a writer. He's written a lot of books. Dragon Doesn't Live Here Anymore, a lot of different ones. And he was saying that he had called one of his friends who worked with the field of consciousness, and he wasn't there, so he got the voicemail message system. And he had left on his voicemail, "Who are you? Why are you here? And where are you going?" And if you know the answers to these questions, you're more advanced than probably about 90% of the planet. And so Alan went on to talk more about that. But I thought, isn't that a great question to answer? Who are we? Why are we here? And where are we going? And so I thought we'd tackle that in this morning's lesson. Does that sound good? All right. So you're going to vote knowing from this point forward who we are. So who are we? I need to tell you that everything I'm going to say is being based upon Robert Brummett's book, Birthing a Greater Reality. And so just know that he's the real wizard behind all of the whatever I say. If you like it, it's him, okay? There's some spirit that's working in there too. But what Robert Brummett says in this second chapter of this 6-week series that we're going through, he says that who are we? We are spirit. Spirit is in this process of becoming involved in creation, that it is imbued in creation. And with the descent of spirit into the denser matters, that there's a reduction of freedom and a centralized identification with it as matter, beginning in the form of matter. So spirit is involved in its creation. And it's showing up as matter is the most dense form. And on the early days of this planet, there was like land and ocean, and then that little single cell amoeba became a more complex form, which kind of created a little fish body. And that little fish body moved out and kind of created a land body. And so that element of spirit moved from this what seems like inert nature into a physical being, a body, bound to this moment in time and space, but an evolution nonetheless into a greater state of freedom and expression. And then it moved from that state of being an expression from innate matter to body to recognizing I've got a brain. And with this brain, I am free to think in ways that my body can't operate because I can be aware of time, the past, the present, and the future, upon which the mind paints and draws and figures out everything. So a greater state of liberation as an expression of being as mind, matter, body, mind. And as we move forward in our consciousness and our evolutionary awakening, we recognize ourselves as souls, that I am actually a being beyond this body, and that I am more than this mind, that I am a very essence and being that comes into formation and once done, leaves this formation. And from there, we can discuss more what happens after that. We'll probably have some differing theories on what that might look like. But the whole process of evolution is an awakening from matter to body to mind to soul, that we are all spirit, that it is all spirit in expression. This is who we are. We are spirit in expression, evolving in our awakening of our conscious understanding of who we are. So who we are is spirit. What are we doing? What are we doing here, really? Like, why all this stuff? Why? Why are we doing this? Pierre Teilhard, I did it wrong again. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, the French Jesuit priest who became a doctor. He studied paleontology and genealogy. He was very interested in the evolution of human consciousness. And ironically, the Catholic Church did not let him publish his works until after he passed on because of the revolutionary nature of what he was proposing. It was published in The Phenomena of Man. If you're interested, I recommend that reading. But we're going to springboard from his thought process into a solution or an answer into why we are here. Now, bear with me. I'm going to bring this back to Pierre. But the tree of life, which has an archetypal symbol, was first mentioned in the Bible. And it was mentioned in Genesis 2:9 and again in 3 verses 22 and 23. And there was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and then there was the tree of life that was in the Garden of Eden. And once we ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which we shouldn't have done, supposedly, according to the story goes, they hid the tree of life. Because it's a very interesting phrase. It says that man has eaten of this and now is going to become one of us. Very interesting. As if this tree of life holds an essence of eternality with it. It was mentioned again in Revelation 22:2, and it says in that scripture that the tree of life is for the healing of all nations. And I went to the Interpreter's Bible Dictionary, looked up all of these scriptures, and basically the tree of life has scholars stumped. They don't really know what it means. But we're going to use it as an example, as an archetypal example of why we are here. So if we look at the next slide, Pierre said that being a genealogist, he understood that all biologists organize life into a peduncle, which is like one of those branches off of that tree. That every family of a growing expression of life is organized in a phylum, and that basic experience of a tree is like the growth of all of life in its different expressions. That's how they organize, biologists, and organize how life is structured. Now, what Teilhard de Chardin said was that this is like a peduncle, that it expands to its capacity, but then we get to a point where we can't expand any further in the same type of structure with which we've experienced. So let's take all this into a place where we really will understand it, okay? So like say a single cell organism comes into a womb and it begins to form a body. And it splits and splits and splits until it has lungs, and it has a respiratory system, it has bones, and has skin, it has eyes and hair, and to the point where you're like, that little body's all fully formed now, and it can't grow anymore in that space of the peduncle in which it's in. And Courtney's going to be giving birth here in about 11 days. And Courtney, I think you're saying that's probably time, isn't it? Yeah. It's time. Love you, little one, and you've reached the capacity of this womb to hold you. And now this little girl is going to go through the birth canal and into this realm of existence. And it's going to be a whole new paradigm, perfectly orchestrated for that little being to grow into new levels of understanding. So this whole vision of we get to the capacity and we grow through to a next dimension is why we're here. This is what we're doing. In spiral dynamics, which I got to tell y'all, from my heart to yours, if there was one thing I could give you here in my service to you here, it would be an understanding of what this is, the spiral dynamics, because it's so clear and it works for us as individual beings. It works for us as societies. It helps us to understand very confusing behavior of what other people may be doing and why they may be doing it. And it gives us a skill. It's called evolutionary consciousness. Just by being conscious of how evolution happens, evolves our own consciousness. So if we can be able to wrap our hearts and our heads around how things evolve, then we become more skillful in our own development and our capacity to be compassionate with others as they are developing and be able to show up in ways that are helpful and instructive to them. So if you can make it today at 2, great. If not, we'll record it. We'll figure out a way to get you connected to it. But it is something that truly can help you in your life. And so I'm going to go over it very, very briefly. Basically, spiral dynamics is a theory of human development, and it was introduced in 1996 with Don Beck and Chris Cohen, who published a book on it. You can get it. And it was based on the book of Claire Graves, and he was also very inspired by Abraham Maslow. Basically, every being evolves through these peduncles. You get to the strength and the capacity of that particular level of understanding, and you go up into a new one and up into a new one. So every single one of these levels that you see is a greater expression of the one before it. Not one better than the other, but part of a whole, part of how we develop as human beings. The very bottom level is basic survival. When this little baby girl comes from Courtney, she's going to need Courtney. She's going to need her family. And because her very essence is going to be about survival, getting this whole thing figured out. How do I work this body? And then she's going to evolve out of that. She's going to evolve into this next layer of kin spirits, her family. She's going to feel most comfortable with mama for a while. And then she'll expand out from that. But this is a realm of magic, like Disneyland, you know? Think of Disneyland and the fun of that and the experience of that. But then that has its capacity. And then we start realizing there's more to life. And then the wonderful, amazing, terrific twos show up. And then, no, I'm not going to do that, mama, comes along. And it's this ego being birthed. I am more than just my family. I am also an individual, and I'm capable of expressing that in the world. And so we move beyond that, and then we realize, oh, there's an order to this world. There's a method of being in this world that creates structure. And I need to probably abide by that. This is law. This is our law enforcement officers. It's the structure of how we organize ourselves in society. This is an extremely important meme for us to understand how it operates. And then there comes this like the Catholic Church would not allow Pierre to publish this work because it was too threatening to it. So there becomes a point where, okay, we've gotten to the point of maximum expression in this blue meme of law and order, and it expands into science, into technology, into revelation through experimentation of what is possible. I will think logically, and I will have a strategy to examine all that is in existence. And from that, we create a lot of things, including the atomic bomb. And so every one of these memes, as we go through this, has a positive expression and a negative expression. And it has a we version and an I version. And we keep developing as it gets more and more and more complex in our thinking process until we get to the point where we have a whole lot of stuff, but we have no meaning in our lives. There has to be more. There can't just be about money. It has to be something more. And so we get to the top of that peduncle and we go into the green meme. The green meme where egalitarian, human relationship, humans matter. 1960s was a real revelation around this, around love, not war. How do we matter to each other? How do we connect to each other? Your voice is important and I need to hear your voice. Our community is predominantly an energy field of this green, loving, connected field of energy. All you need is love. And it's true, we do need love. And the whole peduncle thing exists here as well, because this is the basics of our human experience and expression. And we as a community have reached the top of that experience. We face today more complex questions than we can figure out as individuals. We have the capacity to destroy our earth how many times over now? The resources that we have and we are we using them wisely? Who gets to use them and how? I mean, there's so many complex issues that we are facing, and we as individuals are frustrated because we aren't able to answer it in this first tier thinking method. Because in this first tier thinking method, I'm right and you're wrong. I know the way and you don't know the way. Now, with each growing method, it gets a little more complex and a little more tolerant than the ones above. But even the belief that we don't know the answer is a belief that that's the answer. And it's kind of like systemic in this level of like us versus them type of thinking. There's allergies between these memes. And you can see it play out in our society. What Don Beck says is we are getting ready to do a quantum leap into a whole nother level of thinking and being, a whole nother level of existence. What Pierre de Chardin says is that the possibility of survival on Earth is not only a possibility, but we also have an opportunity for a superior form of existence to evolve. That this crisis we are facing is actually a birth. We are birthing a whole new level of complexity and a higher order of being. And let me tell you, friends, you've all been called to that party. All of us have been called to that party. Every single one of us. Not one of us knows all of the answers. And that's the blessing of this leap from first to second tier. We used to think one or two people had it figured out. We needed to listen to them. Now it's within us all. And this is very, very cool. Every single one of us has access to what wants to emerge. Everyone. No one left out. Every single one of us. I went to the annual summit of Weekers, and they are talking about integrating two different systems of operation. Unity World Headquarters meets the needs of ministries and credentialed leaders. Unity World Headquarters has the grounds at the facility. They have Silent Unity and Daily Word. They do several other things, but they're looking at merging these two separate systems into one, using a very organic process. And I was so touched. I'm now out of that world. I really care about it still, but I'm out of that world and I could see it from a little bit of a distance. And I woke up at 2 a.m. so moved by a higher mind than my mind, a higher mind that said, we are being called into a higher form of existence. That community of our unity movement, it has the leaders, it has the grounds, and it has these wonderful services, but it also has international ministries that are around the world. And what has to come together for this to work is a higher and a larger form of thinking that is beyond us versus them. We have to look good. We want to assimilate you. We're trying to one-upmanship you. That thinking cannot solve what complex nature of what needs to come together is trying to form. And it's only through our relaxing into a recognition that we are all connected. We are all part of a greater whole. What I could understand at 2 a.m., which was from a divine mind, not this one, it was as if I am a cell in the human body of life. You are my body. I am part of your body. That we are all part of a whole. And I need to think of what is the highest good for all beings. And when I recognize myself as being a part of a whole, I also recognize myself as being this eternal spirit that never dies. I'm going to be here for a while. I'm going to come in, do my work, think my thoughts. I'm going to do what I can to create, and then I'm going to go on. And that's what we're all here about. But it's got to move out of an us versus them. I want my stuff. I want my things into a, oh my gosh, I have strength. I have capacity. I have access to things. I am incredibly intelligent as I've been educated by my society. What is it that we have to do? In the peduncle of this ministry, we have been gifted with so many skills and talents, so much wisdom, so much knowledge, and we are meant to do something with it. We as a ministry, as Unity Church of the Hills, are meant to do something with it. I could see in that moment in time that the entire universe, the entire experience of our existence on this planet is completely constructed for our awakening. The complexity of the issues that Unity Movement faces, the complexity of issues that we face in this ministry, they are all for us to evolve us to a higher order of being, a higher understanding. We are going to create a bridge. That is our focus this year. We are creating a bridge to a destiny we don't even know exactly what it looks like yet. but we have within us access to that land. We have the capacity to formulate, and we're working on it right now. A team of people are looking at organizing everything we do here in a conscious way that allows us to understand how it all fits together. As we organize this, we will become a bridge for others to find the peace that surpasses all understanding. We will be able to help others to find the strength of their own inner being. We will shine a light in a way like a beacon into the storm of our world that it's facing right now and be a prototype of what can exist for humans in a new level of being. How do we do it? Thank you. How do we do it? What's needed today is a sense of receptivity to a higher mind. We need our mind. Our mind is beautiful. It is a gift to us. We don't need to get rid of it. We need to put it in service to a higher mind, a divine mind. And how do we do that? We do it through the process of prayer. Pray. When you need, pray. We do it through the process of meditation, becoming still. Because this evolution of consciousness is being evolved by the creator of all existence, and it knows the answer. And we have access to that answer as we become receptive and still. And in that spaciousness and in that stillness, the answers begin to emerge. We are able to have conversations with one another about what is and what is not working. And in that authenticity, in that transparency, in that love, we're able to understand, I see you, Mary. I understand what you're needing. That's easy to solve. We can do it this way. And from that, some higher form of existence begins to become manifest on the planet. I have to tell you, we are here for a purpose. Who are you? You are spirit, awakening unto itself, evolving into its consciousness. What are we doing? We are evolving into higher levels of orders of being. How do we get there? By being in the stillness with that divine mind of that which has created us, which will coach us and guide us and direct us in every breath and every step, in everything if we allow it. Like Paul said, pray without ceasing. Stay in that divine mind and allow it to be who you are and how it moves us forward. So that's it, folks. Who we are, why we're here, and how we get there. I love you all. Thanks for joining us today. And if you like the message, we invite you to like it, share it, and please subscribe.
We are a New Thought church where lives are transformed. So come on, check us out at unityhills.org.
Namaste.